We acknowledge that the land the Go Open Data Association is webcasting from is the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto was built on sacred land that is part of an agreement between Indigenous peoples and extended to allied nations to peacefully and respectfully care for it.
Go Open Data. This is Mission Control. You are go for lunch.
We'll spend some time away from your office bay to the Good Cafe. The beverages are free. We meet up virtually. Open Data Coffee. Welcome to the Good Cafe.
And good afternoon, everybody. It is Tuesday, March the 1st, 2022. How did it get to be March already? This is the Good Cafe, and we're about ready to serve it up. I'm Keith McDonald, and I'm Director of Communications for Go Open Data Association. And our guest today is Adelle Sium, who is the Executive Coordinator of Youthful Cities. And we're going to be talking about Youthful Cities today, just a little bit about Adelle. She's the engagement coordinator with Youthful Cities and formerly worked for Morris J. Wosk Center for Dialogue as a programming coordinator. And she curated a Youthful Leaders Forum for the last federal election, hosting an open dialogue on youth electoral issues with partisan young leaders with the support of Youthful Cities and City News. She's passionate about amplifying young people's voices in civic spaces and is a proud first-generation Eritrean Canadian. So Adelle, let's get you into the picture here.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, actually. We've had a couple of interesting conversations over the past month or so, and you're doing some really interesting things, and you're going to talk about them. So we might as well actually give you plenty of time to actually tell us what Youthful Cities is all about, and also something called the Grid. So I'll just give you a few moments to get into that and tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Youthful Cities has spent the past 10 years really at the intersection of youth-informed data and using that data to build better cities for everyone. And so what that means is we really are passionate about creating more youthful cities. And what that means is utilizing the values that young people have and some of the ways in which they wish to see their communities be built, see the way that they wish to see their day-to-day lives in the places that um, they live and work and play, and utilize those insights to create urban change. And what's The grid is an incredibly exciting, intuitive, open data portal that we built, and we actually built it at the start of the pandemic in September 2020, where we employed 1,100 youth across Canada to collect data, and essentially we're able to utilize this data to create the grid, which was formerly called the Pivot Hub, and we're right in the midst of a rebrand of calling it the grid, where we were able to take the information that these youth were able to collect from other young people, and then highlight 3,000 survey responses, 20,000 minutes of interviews, and eventually leading over to 23,000 data points. And what the grid allows users to do is to compare and contrast qualitative and quantitative data across 47 cities on 23 topics. And we're really hoping to continue to expand and work to build the capacity for young people and youth serving organizations in building their ability to use open data sources like ours, and also build their literacy in open data in general, so that way they can better advocate for themselves and what young people really want to see in cities. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about Youthful Cities in the grid.
Yeah, it was quite interesting when I discovered you actually. And how long have you been actually in operation? You're not that old yet.
Not
Literally.
yet. No. No. So I'm 25. So for me, I'm actually really at the beginning of my career. So I've been with Youthful Cities since um, feels like a long time, but it hasn't actually been too long. It's I've been with them since November, so about 4 months now.
Oh, okay. Actually, I meant how old is Youthful Cities? But
Oh,
how long you've been in operation? But
I thought you were talking about me. Oh, so Youthful Cities has actually been around for about 10 years, but in terms of entering into the creating the grid, that actually just started in September 2020.
so do you feel fulfilled yet in terms of the project so far? I mean, how's it going for you?
It's been incredible, actually. We have a lot of really exciting projects that we're in the midst of launching. I can't share too much right now as we're still in the middle of projects, but we've been collecting information to um, create something called the Real Affordability Index, where we've been collecting information on the costs of living in cities across Canada and what that means for young people and getting them to get a better understanding of what it might cost to live in the city that they are in, what opportunities might there be in other cities across Canada where they can really make a informed decision on where they want to live based on the cost of living of that city. Another project we're really excited about is a project that we're working on with refugees, where we're working to build collect resources and information on some smaller cities across Canada. So if refugees have a better understanding of other places that they can live in besides the two primary cities of Vancouver and Toronto, and getting them a better insight on what else Canada has to offer. So really utilizing information to inform people and give them more opportunities to learn what's all the incredible cities have to offer in the country. So yeah, really exciting to be able to showcase some of these in the next few months, but we're not quite there yet.
So you're Canada wide, and are you? How many are actually involved in the work? You're from Vancouver, so
Yes.
you're 3 hours behind us today. So thanks for doing this. But you've got people where? Toronto, Winnipeg. I mean, how far afield?
Yeah, we have staff in Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, Lethbridge. Yeah, we have people from all over the country. Right now we have a small but mighty team where we luckily due to our Zoom world that we're now all living in, we're all able to connect virtually. But yeah, so it's a small team, but from all over.
No, you were going to give us a quick look at the website. So if people are interested in finding out a bit more information, we should provide the address as well. We can do that through chat. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, show us some of what you've got going from your website.
So these are some of the data points that we have collected. So some information on the influence and impact of COVID-19 on young people, information on the demographics that we've collected it on, the city experience, and some information on what young people really want to see in their city based on different topics. So, art, civic engagement, climate change, cost of living, digital access, diversity, inclusion, accessibility. That being something really something that we're very passionate about. Education, entertainment, um, health services. So lots of really interesting data points where people are able to learn and hopefully utilize some of these data points to kind of build on some initiatives that people are really passionate about. And another way you can organize all the information is by viewing things by the cities. So as you can see here, we have cities from all over the country: Calgary, Charlottetown, Halifax, Hamilton, Kitchener. So a lot of really, really interesting information on cities all across the country.
Now, how did you source this information? Is it all open data?
It is all open data, all free. And it's a really intuitive website for people to be able to use. So you can really go on there, and even people that who have no experience in open data might feel really intimidated by the space. They're able to jump on and kind of peruse the website, and we also have these great little informational videos on how to best utilize the information, because data is brilliant, but it is static and powerless on its own if you don't have the tools you need to know how to utilize some of these, like Excel sheets or things that you're not as familiar with. We have the kind of the steps in place to support people in knowing how to um, utilize the open data access.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I really liked about what you're doing because, we share this in common with Go Open Data as an association. I mean, we're trying to do much of that too with education and data literacy and so on. And I think what I like about it is the whole age spans are coming into play here, whether you're new to it, just graduating from high school or whatever,
Right.
into perhaps learning something when you're further into your career, right? If you've never encountered open data, you do need that orientation, right? Is what is open data?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another initiative that we're really proud of is what we've created a program called Open Up, which is our data literacy program, where we have trained about 17 organizations across the country, youth serving organizations, on how to be open data literate, and how to utilize the tons of open data sources in order to build initiatives or create info products for funders to be able to learn a little bit more about the work that they're doing, and utilize these sources for promotion of the work that they're doing, impact reporting, and essentially really pushing their initiatives to another level. And open data really has an incredible power to do that. So it's been really, really exciting to support organizations in all the great initiatives that they're doing, and indirectly, and us being able to indirectly support young people create better places for themselves to live.
Yeah, I mean, I think you share this in common with us for sure, and your enthusiasm for it is. I think the more people we associate with in the open data milieu have this kind of passion and attitude for it. Would you agree? The people that you've encountered that are pro open data, they're very similar. You get along with them right away.
Definitely.
Rapport. Yeah.
It's a little world, a little niche world that we have out here, where people are so excited and enthused. And I think it's really the world we're really trying to build right now, is a world that's a little bit more transparent. I think a lot of people we've seen a a large erosion of trust in institutions, and just with everything that's happening in the world right now, we want to see more transparency in what's happening in our world, and have utilize open data as an opportunity as a key into really understanding the way in which organizations and institutions are operating, and getting the opportunity to take that information to really steer change yourself, instead of having to um, allow big companies and organizations having all that power themselves. And I think especially in this day, I know this is something we've had the opportunity to chat about Keith, but ultimately, in this day and age, we are constantly giving our data away every day, as we accept cookies absent-mindedly, or share our location on Google or Instagram or Facebook, without thinking too much about it. And little do we know is all that data and information is able to be collected for these large conglomerate organizations in order to make a profit. And I think it's incredible. It's really important for individuals to be able to have that power as well, as be able to collect data, have data available to them, and steer change in the way that they want to see it, and yeah, take on that power for themselves.
I think that's really interesting too. And I think we've found that in some ways, the keener interest on privacy and those issues has hurt open data to some degree because now people certainly are more aware of privacy and will be more inclined to dive right into that area of it. So even before you really get through a full orientation about open data, what it is and stuff, people may feel bad toward it already. There's like a more negative posture. I mean, I've found that. I don't know if you, again, starting up and a year or so in, what are some of the blocks you've encountered? Has that come up? Privacy?
Privacy has been something that has come up, and it's something we are always attempting to navigate. But I do think that we are entering a place where people are they do want to see more transparency in the way that the way that the organizations around them are operating. And I think it's this teetering balance of people wanting to maintain privacy, but there is also a major hunger for more transparency and understanding. And I think that's really what we're hoping to do is to steer awareness and advocacy for the power of more transparency in open data, and seeing that. So we're really hoping to kind of steer the conversation in a different way, and allow people to see open data in a different light, and um, not feel so anxious over their privacy in that way. But we also really think that it's important to advocate for certain values, things like OCAP, which means the data that we were collecting, that people have ownership, control, access, and possession to that information. And I think that it changes the game a little bit, where a lot of the time in other scenarios, people are just giving their information without any ability to have any access to it. Once that information is given, it's just extracted from them, and they have no control of what that information is being used for. Whereas this is really an opportunity to empower yourself with the information that you're offering, that a collective is offering, and all having access to that information in order to utilize it the way that you want to. So I think that really gives people a higher level of agency than we have seen. We've seen in other scenarios where people are collecting information.
I can give you a quick anecdote about that. Personally speaking, so I'm in a condo, and the city started posting, I guess, routine fire inspections. So not fires, but they do that too. But inspecting complexes and stuff, for the doorways, the exits, all that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And one of the things that was noted on the data, I went into it, was that our particular building had several flags around some things. It wasn't specific what the things were, right? So I remember talking to our management office, like, what's this all about? Right. So that's just exactly what you're saying, I think.
Right.
And if people don't realize that sometimes the value they might get personally out of it, it may just still be something that they're just not really interested in. And we were talking about that in terms of explaining it and getting interest. And I'm wondering the challenges you face versus, let's say, what some of the municipalities are facing
Mhm.
around that. Their audiences tend not to be youth specifically. They may encounter it, but rather than making, let's say, a separate program for youth, it's more embodied in, um, perhaps town halls. Again, anyone can come and so on. So, you're quite honed into the demographic. And I mean, do you find your challenges are what would be similar? Like ours would be thinking like attention span, right? So I'm not sure that matters in terms of the age. Um,
Mhm.
but also the risk of getting too far into the weeds where, you can get pretty complex, especially if you get into, files and tools that actually crunch data and make things out of data. If you do that too early, people tend to just kind of, their eyes get wider maybe, and they just, So, I mean, are you encountering the same kind of thing with your audiences?
You know what? I think that's what's really exciting with working with um, youthful or younger audiences or more youth serving organizations, because well, ultimately technology and some has really been in our hands since we can really remember. I think that really gives us an edge on the opportunity to push these things forward, because young people are constantly learning more and more about different technology. I mean, every other week there's a new app that you can learn and have to function through, and I think that gives people a higher level of I want to say, the word is escaping me. So I'm just going to use the word mobility, but able to allow people to be more mobile and fluid, utilizing newer things that they might not have utilized before. So I think that's where it's exciting to work with younger audiences and organizations that are working with young people, because they're constantly willing to learn and expand on their knowledge, especially within spaces that they might not be familiar with. And it's a skill that has been developed quite a bit over the span of our lifetimes, and I think that's what makes it a really interesting community to work with specifically.
I can speak to that just a bit with example. One of the first internships that our IT group that was involved in open data
Mhm.
started was with an open data placement student. And he was about 18, 17 maybe. He was sort of just in between grade school or about a secondary school and college or university. But he was
Mhm.
brilliant. And first day in, the two of us were at a meeting, and he had his laptop with him, and they were talking about an issue, which I forget what the issue was. But he opened up his laptop and he started doing some things, and he created a quick program within about 20 minutes that would actually help uh, what we were talking about. And I
Wow.
thought, yeah, there you go, right? Now, what's interesting about that too is the intimidation factor. The rest of the people around the table, I'm not sure they were as enthusiastic with it, you know? Um, and
Right.
we had some good discussion about this whole thing with the demographics and age and stuff, and even the word youth. Um,
Mm.
and I was mentioning how our conference every year has a youth panel and stuff, and it's hard to get away from categories, right? Just because that's your demographic, that's your age group, that's your target group. And then when we talk about what you're doing, of course, we're emphasizing youth. And I think it's worth talking about a bit because that's a perfect example of a real mix there. And
Mhm.
Derek was his name, was just using his talents without any real sort of thinking about, should I do this? Am I intimidated to do that? I mean, he just went right into it. And I think that's where we're heading as more and more people get to have those expertise. But
Right.
it's an interesting moment, right? So, I mean, what's your take on that? Do you find it um, also a little uncomfortable to be identified, as I'm a youth?
Yes. I mean, I think this day and age, I think everybody feels a little bit uncomfortable being labeled and uh, kind of being understood as being one thing, and being called a youth sometimes can be. There's connotations that are connected to that, and that can be a challenge. But I'm also I'm also quite proud to be a part of a such a group dynamic and innovative group of youthful people, and I think it's a name I wish I could change. Something about youth doesn't always sound. I don't know what it is. It doesn't quite sound like it embodies the demographic as well as it could, but it's really the best term that we seem to have been able to come up with. And but it's an interesting title that can kind of convey different messages to people. But I think ultimately what who you are and what you do with that title is really up to you, and not letting any of the what could be possibly negative connotations around it, not letting that uh, bring you down, and just kind of busting through those myths that people might have around around what it might mean to be a youth, and kind of presenting yourself in who you really are as an individual. I think that's really, really key.
I think it's evolving somewhat too, because again, without defining the age groupings, what qualifies as a youth? When will you be out of youth and into
Hmm.
something else, right? And as I get older, I mean, I'm seeing the same kind of thing as an older adult. I don't like the word seniors um,
Hmm.
much just because of that. And I think if you were to go and depose, and I don't know if you've done that to counsel or anything like that, you do tend to get categorized, right? Oh, that's his demographic, or that's her
Yeah.
demographic, right? And she hasn't had enough experience really to give us a thoughtful opinion. I mean, have you actually faced anything like that?
I absolutely. I think that a lot of, especially when you're in certain rooms where people might kind of gloss over you as if you don't have anything of substance to add to the conversation or to a meeting or concept. It's something that I think everyone has experienced at some point in their life, when they were younger. But I really reject this whole idea of you being boxed into one category or one version of yourself just due to these um, these physical characteristics. Because I'll say, Keith, I've had conversations with you, and I think you are very, very youthful, in spite of the fact that you might not be in the age demographic as some of us. And I think that's where it's really important. I think for people to expand their minds outside of you know age, race, gender as a way to uh, illustrate who a person is. I think we as a society can do a lot better than that, and can expand our minds a lot more, outside of these preset uh, ways in which we view people. So I think that's hopefully something we'll see as time goes on.
I
Um,
think it's certainly worthy. And, we've been talking a lot through last year about bias of accessibility, equality as it relates not just to open data, but organizationally and so on. And I think it's a bit of a heads up if you're feeling in your viewers in your municipalities or whatever that maybe what we're talking about is a factor. It shouldn't be, right?
mhm.
I think it really does. I agree with you. I mean, it comes down to what people are offering and attitudes and toward you don't necessarily think of being old or young. You are what you are, right? And I heard a quote ages ago. I think it was from the guy who played Grandpa Munster on the Munsters. It was on Entertainment Tonight, and he said, he didn't know his age. Actually, didn't know when his birthday was, or what year he was born. So he said, "How old would you be if you didn't know how old you was?"
Hmm.
So I thought, yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Yeah, I think dynamically too. One of the things about open data, I think, is the goal for transparency, and this touches on that, right? Too, I think, how you're related to. Um, so yeah, good discussion there. I want to go to a question that we actually have from an anonymous attendee. The question is, who specifically calculates the values of your indicators for each city? Is it Youthful Cities staff members, or do you depend on partnership collaborations?
So it's youthful. So we have some brilliant data analysts on our team that really kind of bring forth that calculate the value of our indicators. So yeah, so it is within youthful cities that we do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some point, are you going to move toward collaborations? I mean, we often talk through hackathons and things that too many cooks is actually a good thing. I mean, are you open to that, or do you want to keep it a little bit more in house?
No, we're incredibly open to that. We love collaborations, and some of the collaborate we've actually have done collaborations. So with the Pivot Hub, for example, some of the organizations we were able to connect with was the Canadian Council of Youth Prosperity, and the also Simon Fraser University's Morris J. Ross Center for Dialogue is another organization that we've collaborated with. And as well, we are collaborating with organizations called such as the Tamarack Institute, for the refugee projects that I had briefly mentioned. We partnered with the Refugee Center. So collaborations is something we love and wish to foster more of. So if anyone is interested in collaborating with Youthful Cities in any way, we welcome it. And a lot of the things that we're really interested in doing is things like open summits, running surveys for youth in cities, and really any way in which, or dialogue conversations where we're able to push urban thinking. These are all things we're very much open to and would love to see.
That's great. Now, in terms of contacting you on your website, is there's a contact us tab or something? Yeah, so just head to the website, and we've actually done our 45 minutes. We're right at the 3/4 of an hour in. Yeah, it really goes fast. And this year we're trying to be really timely. We promised certain times, and last year we were kind of really loose and stuff. So I think we'll end. This has been fascinating, and I hope we can continue it. And certainly collaborate with you, because one of the things we're interested in from a Go Open Data standpoint is just that, reaching out, learning about what people are doing, how they're working with data, and sharing that information, and being a bit of a conduit between groups and so on. So this has been a great contact for us, and really appreciate what you're doing and your explanations of it tonight. And really, I feel it's a bit too short, but hopefully we can have you back, and especially as the pivot is launched. Do you have an estimated time for the launch?
The launch, you know what, actually, I don't right now, but I will say I welcome everybody to check out the Pivot Hub, as what it's called right now. But just so you know, it will be rebranded to the Grid within the next couple months, I believe.
Okay.
But I encourage you all to peruse it and see all the really incredible insights that are on there. I think you'd be delightfully surprised at just all the amazing things that young people have to say and have to offer about their cities.
And it's youthfulcities.com, correct? Is the place to start with? Yes. And I said the pivot. I meant to say the grid, which is the exciting. I love the name as well. So thanks again, Adelle. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks to our viewers. And this is recorded and it goes on our GoodTube channel. So those that registered will get a mail when that's live. And hopefully you'll go to that and have another visit of it. And as I say, to be continued. So we'll just do our quick end credit roll, and that'll be that. And once again, thank you, Adelle, for helping us out today. It's been fabulous to talk to you.
Y'all come back now, you hear?